growing our own food locally to feed ourselves and to feed our community. I wanted the people to reimagine the value of our land. So we planted hundreds of acres of rubber, palm, rice, fruits, and vegetables. We created a sustainable education model that leads to jobs and prosperity. Our latest challenge is rebuilding an ancient road that is often impassable, especially during the rainy season, that restricts trade and access to healthcare for an entire region of people. The building of one major road will connect many villages to a neighboring country and unlock the potential of many thousands of acres of fertile land. I really believe that this is possible, so I'm inviting you to join us, to help us, and become a part of transformation for so many people. In spite of the many challenges Liberia has endured, we are still standing. We have the resources to build a solid and investable economy. All we need is your knowledge, your participation, and your partnership. I'm inviting you to support Run Liberia to start this process. You're welcome to join us in Liberia in January and immerse yourself in our land and our culture. If you receive an invitation to an opportunity that could truly change the world, what would you do?
Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Anthony here hosting another edition of our program, Focus on Liberia Spotlight. Focus on Liberia Spotlight is the program we use to throw the spotlight on a member of our community, somebody doing something extraordinary. It may be an organization doing something extraordinary, established by a Liberian and doing those things that improve life and give quality to it. Welcome and welcome. And please do us that favor by sharing the broadcast with your contact. The nation Liberia needs all of us. One of our brothers is an example and is playing his part. And he's here to talk about the things that he has been doing and the story behind what he's doing and why he's doing those things and why he thinks we all need to be part of this process of building a nation and making it a place that we want to call Sweet Mama Liberia. Welcome to the broadcast. My guest today is comfortably seated. He goes with the name Q. Karmue is here, and you see the Q there. Quanuquanei. Karmue. Quanuquanei. I got it. Quanuquanei Karmue, or Q, is my guest. And if you want to know a little, and he will explain more about himself, Quanuquanei is the executive director and co-founder of Save More Kids. It's an organization that was established some time ago, looking at the needs of the children in Liberia. Quanuquanei, welcome to Focus on Liberia. It's good to have you, brother.
Thank you so much, Brother Anthony. It's amazing being here. It's a blessing being awake this morning to share this day with you and your viewers.
You know, I can't emphasize how this broadcast is important. And I tried to say from the beginning, Liberia needs all of us. You know, I went through the materials and the work you've been doing, and one thing that caught my attention is that we need to stop looking up to strangers to help us. when God has given us everything that we need and is in us. And if only we can start, then we will get there, and that we need to start. And you have started, and that is why you are here to talk about your work. So welcome, folks. Again, I want to, encourage you to stay with us and also share the broadcast. Don't look anywhere. He said, don't look anywhere. We have been looking everywhere, to every national, everywhere in the world, and we are still where we are. And he's saying that the nation Liberia was given to us as a people to develop it, to help our young ones, and so that we can be proud of it. Nobody, he said, can. And maybe you've heard this before, but the profound thing about him is he is taking the lead. He's not talking the talk, he's walking the talk. Welcome. Let me get back to you. You started an amazing job. What is the story, first of all? How this thing got started? What ignited that desire to do something? Talk to me.
Thank you, my brother. Like many of us, we are migrators and strangers who have went to other countries and have been fortunate to be able to live a life where we've been exposed to so many blessings when it comes to understanding society somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
The story behind Liberia is unifying because we all felt the struggle with the civil war that took place. We all had a chance to migrate somehow. As for my family and I, as for those who watched the video, for those who did not watch, we were also caught in Liberia as a result of the civil war. My mother had five of us. My father was on a business trip to the United States right before the war started. And it was on that trip that, as he was leaving, the war was coming behind him to his country. Little did he know, or little did anybody really know, that war would quickly engulf Liberia so quickly that nobody really had time to think or plan their escape. And therefore, we were caught as we were trying to leave the country with my mother and my four siblings. We were caught by rebel soldiers and ordered to be executed. And as we were escaping and pleading for our life, the rebel leader turns to my mother and tells her that he would do her a favor, that everybody did not have to die, but she should choose who should die among her children. She chose to die so that we can live. And when they took her to that killing field to execute her, to strip her naked and order a 14-year-old child to shoot my mother, as we were looking at this scenario and this situation that was unfolding, we were helpless. And my mother quickly realized that when she was ordered to be executed by this child, that more than likely the child had parents, and the parents had been executed the same way she was about to be executed, and that if she died, I would become a child soldier, and my siblings and I would become victims of the war, and more than likely hold guns to also kill other parents. So that's when she started to pray. Her prayer was a promise to God that somehow, if the bullet would not kill her, and that we will escape that killing field, she promised to become a mother to a child like the one that was about to execute her. And she was saying that prayer right before she got shot. My little sister, who was 5 years old, ran to the field and grabbed my mother in the middle of her prayer, interrupting the scene from the child shooting my mom. The child got distracted, brought the gun to the floor, leaving my mother and my sister in the field. And as she was about to, as that was happening, the rebel leader turns to the child, tells her to shoot my mother and my sister. And as she's getting ready to do that, another gentleman was brought to the field to be executed. His wife is pregnant, and you guys know what they did to pregnant women during the war. And right in that moment, the man started to fight all the rebels. All the attention goes to him leaving that child alone. Now, that was an act of God that took place in that moment when that man was brought to be executed instead of my mother. And he's fighting all the rebels, all the attention goes to him. The child is left alone to decide whether or not to kill my mom. And I believe that God started to speak to the mind of that child. And that child turned to my mother and brought the gun to the floor and told her, "Oma, pick up your clothes and run away." after we kill that man, we're coming back to you. So that's how we escaped that killing field. And as we obviously, so many things took place before we left the country. We had hundreds of miles to walk to finally get into the Ivory Coast. And of course, my father was able to connect with us a year later. To his surprise, we're still alive. That's how we came to the United States. And we thought that, being here was all that was to it. We thought that, okay, Liberia is behind us. We have nothing to do with this country no more. But as soon as the war was over in 2003, that's when my journey for humanity, my journey for my people started. When my mother decided to go back and fulfill that promise, she and my father abandoned everything in America, invited us on this trip. We went to Liberia, adopted 44 orphan children strictly from the war.
May I interrupt you, please? That is an amazing survivor story. That I don't know. Wow. But I'm curious here. Your mom made a decision that she should live. I mean, she should go, right? And you live. And that miracle, for lack of a better way to put it, happened. What was going through your mind as a 4 years old at the time? Could you cry? Could you not cry? What was going through your mind? Did your spirit leave you? I just want to get your experience at the time.
They say picture speaks louder than words. There's a book on top of my shoulder here. I'm going to look out for it.
Okay.
This is my story.
Okay.
This represents me at that time watching my mother make that decision as an 8-year-old child. And my mother, people say that, they say I'm my mother's handbag. And my mother, I was very close to my mom. So when that was happening, it seems like the whole world had come to an end. My entire universe was concaving. That, I know that at that moment we saw so many deaths, so many people die, but we did not think it would be us in that moment to be faced with the trauma of what we had to see. And so as a child, the reason why I can remember the story so vividly is because it happened to me and it happened to so many other people. And I guarantee you, everybody that's watching have a story to tell from that moment, of that pungent moment where it was life and death, where you never forget it. So for me as an 8-year-old, I just felt like I was going to be angry enough that if I was given a gun, I wouldn't think twice, because I'll be so mad at losing my mom to a degree that it wouldn't occur to me that I'm killing other people as well. That's the position that child was put into. So the mind of a child is very fragile. It's very resilient, but it can be concave into anything. It can turn into anything if you would, depending on what type of environment you put it in, depending on what type of influence somebody have on top of it. So at that moment, my work came to an end, only for us to be blessed, for me not to be able to see the bitter end of what so many other children we call Zocos today. They went through that so that I didn't have to go through it.
Thank you.
That's the reason why we don't look down on people,
And so, like you said, you went to the Ivory Coast. Your father was here in the U.S., got in contact with you. Fast forward, you transitioned to the U.S. Your mother started work. And she's like, I'm going back because I made a vow, I made a promise to God that if he should spare my life to live, I will one day save the children of Liberia so that they will not be in a position that that little girl was in to have to take away her life, when that was more like not her decision anyway. So the old man went back, and then what?
The old man went back with the pape, and they renovated the house that I grew up in. And slowly but surely, thousands of children, of course, became the casualty of the war. The aftermath, the forever casualty became the children of the land. And sure enough, we can only hold 44 children in the home that I grew up in Sugar Hill. And my parents renovated our house and started taking these children. They went through a vetting process to take the most vulnerable children in the society, children who witnessed their parents executed, children who most of them watched their parents get decapitated, children who was at a better end of a situation that I did not experience, even though we watched it happen, but we were safe from that moment. So we took in these children, 44 children were the amount of children that could fit in our house. And after that, our life started the great experiment of navigating with children in Liberia and trying to understand how we can make this work. And the image on the screen is the home that we renovated in this amazing little community in Sugar Hill. Uh, and here is where we started this experiment of humanity to be able to connect and grow children for the future of Liberia. Um, and after that, the four corners of this home was not enough to just grow these children in a home. We had to go beyond that. We had to think outside the box. That's when we started saving more kids.
Thank you. So the home was built. It was an orphanage home, correct?
It is an orphanage home.
Okay.
The children live on campus, but
Mhm.
there's also a school within the confine of the home that both nurture the children and the children grow in this confine of the home. But Save More Kids, the organization that we have, expands beyond the home. So it's one thing to grow the children in the home, but it's another thing to fix Liberia for the children to go and live in Liberia. So we couple both of that together with the home and allow for this holistic concept of growing a society. How do you grow children without fixing the society for them to live in that society? So holistically, our organization balance both in, and we approach crisis where we can take the band-aid off or just the concept of, of the band-aid approach that many organizations go into a country like Liberia and simply focus on the bare minimum for what they can do. But holistically, is that sustainable to grow in a society? Um, those are the kind of questions that we were grappling with. How do we grow people so that they can be the resource, they can be the sustainable outcome for why the society gets better? And that was our concept, Christ Children Home.
So talking about that a little more, your mom established it from you visited him. I mean, sorry, I'm very sorry. You visited her and dad, who were already in Liberia, and you saw that this was not enough.
Exactly.
And having about 44 kids or more was not enough. There were many kids in Liberia who needed the very assistance or help or training, or development that those 44 or whatever the number was were going through. And you wanted to see more of them because you were in that situation. And what did you do?
So we decided to expand the mindset of the
Mhm.
children beyond the four corners of the home.
Mhm.
I got to say that many of our leaders in
Mhm.
the past
Mhm.
have been fortunate to be adopted by Peace Corps,
Mhm.
by individuals that have visited Liberia in the past and took them and gave them opportunities to go
Mhm.
to major universities across the world.
Mhm.
But something was missing in their education. They were taught well, they went to great universities, but they did not understand humanity. They did not understand how to serve their people adequately. So
Mhm.
we were to grow children and give them this opportunity in this home. We wanted their eyes to be open to their countrymen. We wanted their eyes to be open to their community so that they're not just living in a society where they've been blessed to live in a home, but then skip across the land of Liberia, go to other universities, get an education without having an education of humanity. So a big part of our process is to look at crisis in our communities and open the children's eyes to those crises and bring those crises in the classroom, allow people to understand that crisis is an opportunity, that wherever we're in crisis and that the children can see that broken roads is not something that they should be used to. A broken education system is not something that they should get used to. And that as a matter of fact, they should become upset that their communities and their country is denigrating in such a level. So a lot of our process through Save More Kids was to expand the minds of the children to the possibilities of turning crisis into opportunities throughout Liberia. And that's kind of the streamline of our programs that we've set up and goes into those directions of doing just that.
Thank you. And the Save More Kids organization was put together. And let's talk about the programs that you are carrying on.
Okay. So we have four major pillars.
Mhm.
And our concept at this point now is how do we grow a middle class effectively?
Mhm.
For the first 15 years of our time in Liberia, we've grown kids in the confines of a home, right? And that first 15-year focus on education, focus on security, focus on safety, right? Now, it's not enough to grow children in a home and give them education if they can't find a job in the society that they're going into.
Okay.
So our four pillars have to do with education that leads to jobs, right?
Mhm.
Agriculture that leads to refinement, creating a surplus, right? Refining the surplus and then transitioning surplus and the profit that comes from that surplus, putting it back into infrastructure. So it's a circular economy. The whole concept is you grow people, you give them education, but you tie their hearts and their imagination to future jobs as a result of the agriculture programs and the different type of infrastructure that needs to be created. So we have kids now who are going to school to become engineers because we need to build bridges.
Right.
We have kids now who are going to school studying agriculture because we have a vast vision to feed ourselves instead of waiting for China, India, United States to bring food to us to feed ourselves. We are turning the minds of the children and the minds of our citizens back to the resources within the country. And in doing that, we profess that if we can tie our education system to the crisis that we face and allow our children and our future to be able to understand that these crises become an opportunity, then we have real solutions to be able to solve those problems. Because if we produce agriculture where we can refine the rice, we can refine the cassava, we can refine those major produce that can become profit. And if our raw material only leaves the country to go to different countries to get refined, then we are doing ourselves a disservice. So our system is built on those four pillars, from education to jobs, right? From agriculture to refinery and building a system that produces our surplus from agriculture. Then the profit goes back into developing infrastructure such as water, sewer system, and so forth, electricity, and so forth in the country. So those are our four pillars of development. To
I like that concept, like, hey, we have so many crises. Education is the tool to use to prepare us to meet the crisis and find the solutions. So our education should be tailored to solving problems, resolving these crises. I like that. And then you talk about the agricultural project. So let's talk about that a little more. What are the specific, agricultural projects that you are into right now, trying to find solutions?
So, it's ironic because in the middle of crisis, many people panic, right? In the middle of crisis, we all want to run. We all want to find a hiding place and escape route. So when COVID hit, actually, let's go back to Ebola. When Ebola hit the first time, our organization looked at the crisis and found that the main issue that explained many deaths during the Ebola was people were starving to death. There was no source of food that was available in those communities that have been shut down because nobody could leave those communities. So food were not getting to them easily. So we put on a relief project that brought hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bags of rice to people in various communities. But we realized that that was a short-term fix. So over the last 5 years, as we partner with other organizations and partners across the world to be able to provide short-term relief to our people, we realized that the relief was becoming a burden. First of all, when you fill up a container of rice and take it to Liberia, the first thing people think is, are you going to run for president? Are you going to run for different things because you're bringing rice in the communities? You
Mhm.
become a threat. So it just getting the containers from the port became the major headache in that process. So what did we learn? We learned that the more we depend on containers coming in with food, our people will starve to death. It's not enough to feed them. So then we look at the land that we have in Liberia. Do you know that 14% of our land we've only used about 14% of our land? So we have almost 85% of unused land in Liberia, right?
Mhm.
We have one of the largest land mass in all of West Africa that is unused. So we started to look at opportunities with the land and the people. And then from there, we say, okay, you know what? We need to start planting rice to feed ourselves.
Mhm.
But before we started planting rice, right from the beginning of the organization, we started to plant rubber because we felt like rubber might turn into a cash crop that will allow us to not be so dependent on support from overseas. You know, when COVID hit, many organizations, many donors shut their banks because they didn't know what was going to happen. So in the middle of COVID, we actually started to plant rice. We started to take advantage of some of the land that we currently own in the country, and started to plant our own rice. And throughout the time, after about 3 or 4 months of planting seed rice and using the swamp to also plant rice, we did our first harvest, and we harvested 4 times in 1 year. That was enough to not only feed the children at the home. Currently, we haven't bought a bag of rice for almost 2 years, right? And we're using that as a model to say that if we can look at the resources that we have as a community, as a country, that we are able to turn those resources into opportunity and start to feed ourselves. So at this point, we have planted. The first crop that we planted was rubber. We have about 150 acres of rubber that we planted. The hope is that that would turn into a cash crop that would then turn around and start to expand other agricultural programs such as fruits and vegetables, rice, cassava, greens, that will allow our people to start feeding themselves. So those are the first fruit of the land when it comes to what we have planted so far.
Thank you. And in addition to the agricultural project where you're making impact in the community, there are other projects. One of which is the period project you call it. Let's talk more about that. What is that, and what all that entails?
So the period project, again, goes to a holistic concept of looking at society, looking at our society. Of course, women and children become the most vulnerable aspect of our society.
Mhm.
And so we have a special attention to empowering the young girls and the women in our society so that they can feel a place to be empowered. Many women in our society, especially young girls, approach that time of the month where during that time of the month, the critical time of the month, they don't have the essential tools to be able to protect themselves. So many girls drop out of school for almost a week as they are going through their menstrual period. And so we decided that this is a critical aspect of our society. We have to focus, create a program that allow for this conversation of health to take place in an incubator where our girls are educated, where they feel like their bodies are essential, that they don't, they can just have a safe, secure place to talk about situations that they go through during that month in a secure place. And it can be a safe zone where they can freely talk about these type of issues. And then also it can metamorph into a place where these women can be able to counsel one another. So we started the period project to provide essential tools and supplies to women and girls who need those menstrual pads and those essential needs in Liberia. And through that, it has been amazing because at this point now, we are also empowering women and partnering with other organizations in Liberia to be able to empower women with microfinances so that they can be able to send their children to school effectively without depending on an outside source. That if we empower the woman to do a business, she will be able to use that funding and pay for her child to go to school. And so those are all essential programs that we have within the organization as well.
Thank you again, folks. If you are joining us, this is Focus on Liberia Spotlight, the program we use to throw the spotlight on one of our own, somebody from our community doing extraordinary things in Liberia or in our community. And we have the honor of, talking to a brother, Quanuquanei, Mr. Q, who is doing a lot in Liberia. This guy, I don't know, it's like he has seen this so much trouble for our country, Liberia. And he's like, these are problems we should have solved many years ago. Let us solve them right now. You think he's only into agriculture? You think his family also, have an orphanage home where they're catering to kids? Do you think they're only doing something about our girls, to support them in their education? The biggest one is roads. He's building roads. Where is he getting all that money from? Can he actually build roads? He's saying it can be done by us and nobody else. And to get into that, we have a video that will introduce that. Stay tuned. Liberians can do it. We have one of them here, and he's telling us how it can be done. Watch, and we will be right back. Let's watch the video right now.
When our sister is pregnant on that road, she have miscarriage in this town, and the baby can't come out, we have to get the mother and the baby to the hospital. By the time you call ambulance to try to get here, it's too late. God forbid. Our sister, the baby, may have been gone by then. I'm tired of our country being in the darkness, because it's not strengthening you to believe that you can do it. But until you rise above your trouble, you will always be weak. It's not acceptable. This is the year we change it. That you too, my people, should be strong too. But this time around, the only way Liberia becomes something is the people, we the people, become the donor. So I'm asking y'all to become the donor for your own project. Don't let somebody come, a stranger come to your house, constantly taking care of your children, washing your clothes, and making you're not strong enough to help yourself. This is not acceptable. This is a humanitarian crisis. I said the road will benefit Liberia, not just Panta. And when I just want to build a road, want to put a bridge to hit Guinea. We're saying we want us to wake up for the first time in our life to believe that no matter the problem, no matter how big the issue is, that we can do it. This is not about building road. This is about bringing us together for the first time for us to believe that the greatest atrocities that we have faced as Liberians is not to be invited to development. This is a chance for us to participate in something patriotic. We are choosing to walk together because we are tired seeing our place broken. We're not asking people to come and develop our place for us. Instead, we are inviting the world to come, to join in development with us. I'm asking you to sacrifice. In your sacrificing, if your heart is open to sacrificing for the first time, the things you sacrifice to have is the one that you will keep.
Wow. So when I watched that, I'm like, is this brother crazy? You're gonna pay roles? I mean, 1847, we are told historically this nation Liberia, came into existence. And since then, we have all these roles. The almighty government has not been able to do it. And you are saying your organization, along with your family, going to start role projects in Liberia, and you have started something about it. Talk to us. This is crazy. I can't believe it.
Well, first of all, let me a point of correction.
Okay, please.
I am not building road.
Okay.
Um, I am more of a messenger that is telling the Liberian people that the most greatest inherent duty that we have as a society and as a people is to be able to exercise the potential greatness that we have within us. Now imagine living in the United States and the citizens of this country can never exercise their greatest inherent potential. What's going to happen to the rest of the society in this country if if the people here in America does not exercise building national pride? You know what happens? They will go for hundreds of years in the great United States, and those bridges that we drive on here and those amazing places that we enjoy looking at, the people themselves feel a sense of pride because they participated in development. If you take a nation and you say the citizens should not be an active participant in how their roads are built, in how their government is ran, in how their infrastructure comes together, there's no sense of national pride. So what happens? You have a self that you have people who build their own houses but never got a chance to exercise their national pride. So after 15 years of exercising humanity, of trying to grow people in a home, we came to the conclusion that the reason why our work may not be sustainable is because the people who we are serving have never had a chance to exercise that pride for building something excellent. You know, when you go to San Francisco, you think about the Golden Gate Bridge. When you go to New York, you think about the George Washington Bridge, right?
Mhm.
You go to these major cities, you think about these major monuments. Those are American pride. And all the individuals that come from around the world, when they come to those cities, they are proud of America because the people built something excellent. So when we think about 200 years, what have Liberians built that we can point to and say, this is an example of a Liberian monument that the Liberian people put themselves into and they suffer and they got it done. And as a result of that, their country will thrive because if we can build one road, we can build a bridge. And if we can build a bridge, we can build hospitals. If we can build hospitals, so on we go to the next generation, leaving them a trail of contributions that we can reinvent the industrial revolution in Liberia as a result of believing that we can do it. So we turn to the people. We said the best way to build a nation is not to turn to the outside world and say, come build it for us. Imagine somebody coming to your house and your house is on fire. And you sitting in front of your house, cross your hands like this, and watching your neighbors take the bucket to put your house off, to put a fire out. How do you think your neighbor is going to feel after a while?
So what you are doing here is trying to build the consciousness, uh, creating that belief in ourselves that if we get started, we may need all the help, but the most important help we need is ourselves. And then maybe others may join in. Run Liberia. And the wordings here read, if we can build a road, we can build a bridge. If we can build a bridge, we can build a nation. Explain to us, what are you trying to communicate here?
As I was saying earlier, all I'm saying to people is that there's a formula that God has shown us
Mhm.
as a result of simply allowing ourselves
Mhm.
to serve humanity. God has given us secrets about codes that have allowed us to be entrapped for over 200 years. And this special code that I believe that Liberia need now is a concept that tells everybody that they can do something, that we're able. You know, if somebody spent 200 years telling you you can't do it, you're not able to build your own place, you're not able to contribute to your own society, and you start believing that for 200 years, you're going to pass that down to your children, their children are going to pass it on to other generation, and all of a sudden, you're going to be entrapped in this mindset that says we can't do it. If the rest of the world do not do it for us, we will not be able to do it. I beg to differ that if we get started by building one road, if we get started by successfully, I'm not talking about dirt road, I'm talking about excellently building one road. I'm not talking about a road that have sidewalks that have a hole in the middle of that sidewalk where trash is piling up. I'm talking about an excellent state of the art road in the middle of the bush that connects to another country. And if we can build that road effectively, I believe the mindset of our people will be free. That enslaved mindset that we have grown to encapsulate ourselves with will be lifted. And that the confidence that we need to have as human beings, that Liberians have never exercised that confidence of building something. I believe that if we build one road, we will build a bridge to connect Guinea. And if we build our bridge, we'll put a toll on our bridge and we'll run it so excellent that national pride will be installed in our people's mind that there's no crisis in Liberia that we will not be able to overcome, that will not challenge those crises and say we can do it because we did this first one and it happened so excellently that we can move to another one and do something even better with that.
And
That's the formula.
Quanuquanei, are you not doing too much? Agriculture, your family running an orphanage home where you're doing excellent work, and and you have the period project. Are you not doing too much here? I'm getting a sense that the problems are too many and they've been around so long. So I just want to arrest them now. Where are you going to get all the funding from?
Let me tell you something, my brother. Amazingly, the reason I'm so excited is because this is the prime of my life. Many people die in their prime without doing enough. And then we bury them. We don't know where we bury them. We're not even doing enough. And my mentor once told me, never get caught where God used to be. So we can never do enough, especially with the crisis that is mounting. If we don't approach crisis with a mindset that can overcome that crisis, our generation will die in the middle of the wilderness because we did not do enough to escape the concept of the crisis that we face. So I beg to say that every Liberian that is under 50 years old, from 40 years old, that 25, all the way up to that age, we haven't done enough. If you think, say, building a house in Liberia is enough, if you think, say, sending food to your family is enough, you are setting up a system for your people to suffer for the rest of their life. I'm saying that we're not doing enough, that we need people of excellence, individuals that are young with bright mindset that can contribute their life in this national pride in order for us to challenge the status quo of our society without going through the barrel of the political will, but going through the system that says that we can build effectively and we can build from the bottom up. And that if we focus on those essential crises as a nation, as citizens of a country, that we're not only dependent on government to do everything for us, that we can build a system that can aid government, that can allow for our people to come from making 5 cents a day, $2 a day, to making $5, $10, $20, maybe even $50 a day. That is possible to happen in our lifetime. Then I believe that we ought to be having those kind of conversations that will overshadow the crisis in our nation.
So the whole idea here is your call to all of us to do more and go beyond sending money to family members, maybe building a house, and try to follow the example that you have set and many are doing as well. Organization, involved into projects intended to not only give people skills, but to sustain those skills, and carve that way into employment, more so permanent employment. My question here is that how can other Liberians do more, in your words, that we need to do more? How can other Liberians do more? I mean, you are doing more. I can say that without any hesitation. I think you're doing too much in the first place. How can other Liberians do more? Because your call is not only to, hey, come see what I'm doing. I want you to be involved in your individual way. So talk to me. How can we Liberians do more individually and, if possible, collectively?
I believe in a collective impact. I think the individual way of doing things is one that's killing Liberia.
Okay.
I think the formula that told us that we can go and buy land, we can go and build houses, and somehow haul some sand and give some employment locally, somehow that's going to change a nation. I think we've missed the mark. I think collective impact, unity in impact is what builds a nation.
Okay.
And we have to take on projects that is way beyond ourselves. We have to leave the self behind and start to collaborate with the moving projects that are affecting community effectively. And we have to find a way to volunteer in those projects. Now, if I go and throughout my experience, the majority of the people that are volunteering on behalf of Liberia are not Liberians. And that is a sad statement. I would rather do it with my brothers and sisters at the bottom of the foundation of the project, so that they're the one that we are holding hands and building together. Because you know what happens when COVID hits? Do you know what happens when our next crisis hits? Our counterparts will escape and go home and leave a vacant land, but we can never leave it alone. So I believe that the best way to impact Liberia will be if our brothers and sisters who have been fortunate to get educated overseas, who have been fortunate to get educated in Liberia, who have a heart to say, you know what, this is not enough, to join a pack of people who are doing things beyond the self, to be able to contribute to a society that one day when we sit back, 20 years from now, when we're both in our 60s and 70s, right, we can say as a result of the sacrifice we made, our country has a different approach now, that we've grown leaders who have grown the concept of believing in the future that is 100 years from now, not just in this political season, but who are grown to understand that the best way to contribute to life is to contribute to the future of your country. So I'm inviting everybody to understand that if you are within that age bracket, don't waste your time. Join a movement that is bigger than yourself. And don't create a movement that you can carry by yourself, because when you die, that movement will die. I don't want to do this for myself. I don't want to claim that I'm doing anything. I'm just following a duty for being alive. I could have died in the war. There were so many bullets that missed my family and I. There was so many water that we drank with dead bodies in it. And I'm here well and safe. So I owe it to my country. I owe it to God for giving me the chance to be alive, to live my life so that our country can get better. To me, that's the biggest blessing that I can receive, is to serve my country and to serve my people.
Wow. We will read some comments. And this one is from Augustine T. Musad. Good evening. The person probably might be in Liberia. Watching you from Sino County. That is Jefferson W. Snan watching us from Sino County. Are you in Greenville, Jeff? This is Shelley Jala. Lord have mercy on us. Jimmy Eastman watching from the nation's capital. This is Flavor L. Morris. God bless your family. Flavor writes, Jerome Gaiman, who is associated with this network focus on Liberia, is one of our hosts here. Unbelievable story of miracle. He writes, Flavor again, God bless your family. Like, yeah, from Maki as Mamu, which rebel group was involved in that heartbreaking attack on your family? Maybe we should leave that for now. Then Focus on Liberia wrote here, look up the organization website, www.safemorekids.org, so you can get to know more about the work that this institution is doing under the leadership of this young and energetic brother of ours. This is Focus on Liberia, boss here, Dennis Jai writing, fellow Liberians, please watch and share. Those making a difference in our community must be celebrated, encouraged, and supported. Politicians alone should not get the first row seats in our lives and operation. And Dennis could not have said it so eloquently. And this is what we do. People who are doing extraordinary things, pulling the strings, showing us the strength and the capacity and the ability that we have, that we add the best thing, about us and that we can use to develop our country. We don't give them the support. We give support to individuals who are all in it for themselves. But yeah, from Samuel B. Austinfield, I admire your enthusiastic initiative, but you should know that Liberia's problem is not rooted in societal non-initiative, but also in international special interest and suppression. Thank you there for that take. Like, yeah, from Lincoln Colley. Wow, my brother, that is great. This person is amazed with the level of work you and your family doing in Liberia. Anthony Kolako, thanks, my brother and friend. Keep soaring. We are very proud of your work. Liberians in California are very proud of your commitment. A.S. Kalako writes. Lincoln Colley again, thanks for that, my brother. I am watching from my Pennsylvania, USA. I wish I can join you now. Ambrose D. Dokula of Tokula. We can do it together. Tokula writes. This one is from Mantu Taylor. I'm following you from Guazon, Rabafi Highway. So Liberians are watching and following, and listening to you, explaining the work you are doing and your call to all of us to do something more than just sending money to family members. And you said it right. The best way to contribute to life is not to contribute to yourself, but to contribute to your nation in whatever way you can. So your response to the comments that I just read.
Well, it's a blessing to see that people are watching, and the best thing for any type of movement to grow is engagement and for people to get involved. Somebody said that there are people who watch things happen, there are people who make things happen, there are people who can take things that happen to the rest of the world and reproduce it to happen more. Um, One of the brothers said that our problem is extremely rooted not only into Liberia, but overseas suppression. Absolutely, we recognize that, but we cannot um, play to the notion that if we do not aspire for better, then we will not get better. If we do not take that same light to people overseas so that they can understand our stories, that we are not coming from a sympathetic standpoint, but from an empathetic standpoint of life is where we stand. We say, have empathy on us, but don't sympathize us. Sympathizing people is like telling them, we feel sorry for you, here's some bag of rice, okay, go away. We're saying no, come in the dirt with us, walk with us, right? Plant with us, grow with us, then you will understand us. So we're also telling the same thing to our Liberian people, because you can be Liberian and not be empathetic to who you are, to your own culture, to your own people, that you become so numb to problems that you don't know how to respond to solutions. So here we are now with an opportunity to be able to grow something together. January 7th is coming up. We have, when we did the first Run Liberian marathon that we held for the road project, we had nearly 7 to 10,000 people from these bushes come together to walk on their dirt road for 13 miles. I mean, they took on a challenge that they did not believe was possible, and they were able to walk with us on those roads, and they were so energized in their unity together on that road that day that something happened in their mindset. They started to believe that if we can walk on this road for 13 miles with strangers that came from 5 different continents, then what is not possible for us to do? So we're also saying now that we have January 7th, 2023 coming up. For every Liberian that is in Liberia, make your way to this road that leads to Guinea. It's the shortest distance from Liberia to Guinea. And it's going towards Nimba. In Bonkante, you take a left and it goes through the Panta district and it hit the border of Guinea. What if at that point, right, in January 7th, that you can make your way there? Instead of having 10,000 people on the road, what happens if we put 40,000 people on a dirt road? What kind of statement would the word would that send to the word to the rest of the world that we are serious about development and we're not going through the political route to do it? As a matter of fact, we're harnessing change in a way that allows the world to see that we are moving into a society that will allow us to build our own road. Then, if supporters such as the World Bank and other institutions see that the Liberian people are ready for development, don't you think they will respond to us?
That is more than likely they will respond, my dear brother. That is more than likely they will respond quickly here for the work that you've been doing in Liberia through your organization, Save More Kids, that org, and also Christ, Christ Children Foundation, No Home, all right, which is the orphanage home. Talk to me. What are some of the success stories? What have been the challenges? And let's talk about the successes and challenges you've had, so far since you started this work.
Thank you. Let's talk about some of the challenges first.
Mm-hmm.
As a newcomer into Liberia,
Mm-hmm.
I was just getting out of college,
Mm-hmm.
25 years out of time, and I was in the middle of my master's program when my parents made this decision to come back. Right from the beginning, the fear of going back to a war-torn country settled in massively when my mother invited me to come back to help open this home. But when I got over those fears and stepped into Liberia,
Mm-hmm.
I started to see the scars of war on the faces of our people.
Mm-hmm.
I started to see the demoralizing roads and the condition of the infrastructure all over the place. But perhaps the most tragic aspect of those challenges was the scars that live in the faces of our people. That even those who were in the Americas had not been rehabilitated as a result of the crisis that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest challenge that we faced was the mindset, was trying to overcome that mindset of the Liberian people so that they can understand the values that they have lost outwardly, the values that they have lost in their communities was not lost forever because they were still alive and they still hold the potential to grow something tremendously amazing. So the biggest challenge that we faced was making people to believe in themselves, that it was possible to grow something locally, that it did not have to come from overseas in order for it to be beautiful. Making people to believe that the best of Liberia is within Liberians, that they themselves were the one that was holding the biggest possible future was within themselves. It didn't matter how many millions of dollars that came from overseas to dump into Liberia. Unless our people start to believe that they have the solution for the future, that we were never going to overcome to that future. So even the children at the home, rehabilitating them was the hardest thing ever, so that they can start to believe that all of the infrastructure that we have set up belong to them. It's to a point where even some of the children that we grew in the home, they did not believe that this belonged to them, to a level where we started a water refinery system in a place that was a water desert, where when a drought took place, people didn't even have drinking water. instead of digging wells, we actually brought a machine and create a water refinery system where we're packaging water, such as the water bag, and it became the best, some of the best tasting water that even people who come from America, that's the water they drink. Our children, some of our children did not believe that that was all for them to carry. So some of them who were given the power to carry it, they quit. Most of them, the monies that were generated from there, some of them started to steal the money. Some of them started to invite other people who were not friends from the outside to actually come and rob the blessing that belonged to them. So you see how the mindset became the biggest issue that we face? It's like when Harriet Tubman said, if they only knew that they were slaves, I could have freed more of them. That's the situation we're facing in Liberia. People don't know the potential they have, so they don't know the opportunity that lies within their hands for us to be able to overcome those potential and for us to be able to overcome those crises and live up to the opportunity to grow better.
And the successes, you just talk about the challenges.
Some of the successes we've had is going past those crises and not giving up and being able to be persistent. Because sometimes when I'm in Liberia, I spend 6, 7, 8, 9 months away from my family. You know, I'm married. I have 2 beautiful kids. I've been married for 22 years to the same woman.
Oh, wow.
Amazingly, we've grown 2 amazing kids. One of my daughters is about to go to college. Our biggest challenge is spending so much time away from them nowadays just to be able to help our countrymen to become better. But the success in that is that after being persistent, people can see that it's possible. The success of getting 10,000 people on the road from villages, from bushes, and those same people that we got on the road, we challenged them to contribute to the road. Imagine going to the village and telling these poor people to say, look, the blessing for you to overcome your challenge that you're facing in this village is for you to give. They look at me like, you crazy? You want us to give? I'm like, yeah, I want you to be the donor because I want to brag on you that the road was built because you gave to it. So we did that for a year. I went from village to village for almost 1 year with a team that we created in these villages, sensitizing the people's mind to the concept of giving.
The guy from America is asking the people in the institution to give money. And you succeed at convincing them that, yes, you can give. What makes you think you can give? How profound is that? And what is that?
I was so proud. And if you look at the video, we did billboards in every village and put up on those billboards the amount that people gave. It was so amazing. So as people drive on our road, they get a full caller. They say, okay, full caller gave $800 from this village. When you go to other village, and they're still collecting money. As poor as they are overcoming the fears that they've been told that they're not able to do it. So that was a major success. And here's another success. Went into Guinea, where the road would lead. Another poor communities all around Guinea. We sensitized the people's mind, and the Guineans were able to walk 27 miles from Guinea on their feet to the beginning of the road, right? Where the maritime will begin. And when they came to the beginning, they walked back the next day, another 27 miles, all the way back to Guinea. And you know how much the Guinean collected locally from the villages?
No.
The Guinean collected nearly $15,000 US from the bush. And our local people on the Liberian side of the border collected nearly $8,000 US. These are poor people who decided to bring their monies together. And we don't collect the money from them. We created a banking system in every village where they keep their money. So when the time comes to build a road, they would then come and present that money to the media and say, here's how much we collected. Let's build our road. So if we can make the people to believe in themselves, then we who are sitting in the Americas, don't you think we should buttress them?
I think we should buttress them. And that's where I come in with contribution. How have you been able to sustain this work through the organization? And how can Liberians, because you are calling on all of us to start, there are some people who are supportive. That's their nature. That is how they are wired. And when they see something good, they will contribute to it because they have come to believe in it. And this is something you established. How can all of us contribute to this? Through what means? How much? Talk to me about that. Liberians are listening.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Liberians, this is not Quanuquanei's work. This is not a work that we can claim and say, this is our work. We're doing this. We're not doing it. I'm a messenger. I'm a body. I'm willing to put myself on the front line to be able to give us a chance to participate in something great. So I'm encouraging y'all. SaveMoreKids.org is a website, is a non-profit organization established in the United States. So you can go to this website, you can hit on support, you can hit on contribution, write a little note that says you want your support to go towards Run Liberia. We need to raise from now until January another 150,000 US dollars in order to put 40,000 people on this road. And then I'm also asking you to participate in not only contributing to this process, but if our counterparts are willing to come from the United States, from Europe, from other countries to walk 1 mile, come out and walk 2 miles. If somebody is going to give you a hand to develop your country, show them that you're ready for development. You hold their hands and help them to walk with you. So give. We need your money, but we need your bodies. We need your inspiration. We need everything that you have learned about humanity. We need you to contribute your knowledge. We need you to participate in our process because we can't do this alone, and we don't want to do it alone. At the finish line, I don't want to be standing alone. I want to say that our countrymen came from all over the United States, flew to Liberia, not to just build our houses, but it took a detour and came to a dirt road on January 7th and contributed their monies, right, to a process that's not politicized, but to a process that's practical enough to build our country, to build a middle class. What's going to happen if we put a modern road in the middle of a bush that leads to another country, open a border? Do you know what happens to all of that region financially? That becomes a model that we can practice and take it from there and take it to other part of the country and do the same thing again. So
And I know you're completing your thoughts there, but you talk about the babos, people who are contributing, and the amounts right there. Talk about that more. These are people in the villages who are saying, hey, I have to contribute here. Talk to me about that more. That is important.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we printed about 8 billboards along the road with villages. As you go along the road, there are villages along the road. And these billboards commemorate the citizens of that region. There are people in the poorest part of Liberia who are struggling on the road. They came together to say, you know what? I will give. And we gave them a suggestion. We said, look, if every able-bodied person in this region will be able to give the equivalent of $10 US for this entire life of this project, then we believe that you will send a statement to the rest of the world. And these people on these roads across the border in Guinea decided that they were going to do it. Look at that. The people walked barefooted for 13 miles because they believed that this belonged to them. So it was so fascinating to see them come out, celebrate this process, enjoy themselves. During this time, old women, young women, old people, they started to believe that in one day time, they came to the concept of unity in such a way that even those who came from overseas became the cheerleader for these people. So they were able to give their little 2 cents, and they're still collecting as we speak. And now 1 penny of the money they give, we take from them. We set up a banking system within their community to be able to hold each other accountable to the monies that they collect. Our job is just to facilitate the process and grow a system where when we're ready for the deposit, we invite the media, we take the deposit, we take it to the bank, we say, here is what the local people have done. Now, we would like to also say, here is what the Liberian people did, in addition to what the local people did. And then here's what our international friends did. Now, let's build a road that we can remember.
I can't thank you enough This is inspiring. This is calling on all of us to do something more than just sending money for family and also building our individuals' homes to get comfort. If the nation Liberia is not in a comfortable place, that comfortable home might be prone to the zogos we talk about, or many other things. And so you are saying we can do better. If we can come to the US and enjoy and live in comfort, light streets, we drive our cars. I mean, we can do it for ourselves. We know what is good for us. Let us just do it. Let us not just imagine it. There's this guy that said, you can't just imagine a better future. You have to fight for it. Brother Q is telling us, let us fight, and let us fight collectively. Let us do it through institution. Let us do it collaboratively. And when we put our strength together, and when the world sees it, the world will come not to give off crumbs, but they will celebrate our spirit, and our desire, to represent ourselves, and we will be more respected than just sitting there and say, oh, when World Bank is sending the amount to build this road, all we'll be left with are just symbols. But when they see that we want this for ourselves and involve, even by walking a mile and running a mile, that, hey, see how bad this road is, I'm working on this road. How much more when it's paved with sidewalks and all that? This is the message the brother is preaching, in addition to what his organization is doing. And all he's asking us now is, can you just chip in? The locals are contributing $200 Liberian. Some, they are doing it. And these are the people that don't even get salt to cook their food. They have to go to the neighbor.
Sorry.
And you earn something twice a month. You can do it. You can do it. The website is right here, www.savemorekids.org, and contribute to this remarkable effort being undertaken by one of our own. And that's why we call this program Focus on Liberia Spotlight, throwing the spotlight on somebody from our community, doing something extraordinary that calls us to action to support it. And my favorite talk, stop supporting the politician. They are our problems. If we support ourselves, they will see the value in us, and they will not play us for the football they see us to be. They will know that these people are intelligent enough. We can play with them. You want to be played with? Continue supporting the politician. You don't want to be played with? Support your own. Support this project, and you will be doing something for Liberia. My brother, I don't want to preach my sermon. I want to give you the opportunity to give us your closing. We want to say congratulations to you. I hope this opportunity of speaking to Liberian will serve as a source of strength for you to do more and not give up. Because in all of these things, I tell you, my brother, just by being sitting in this comfort, it's challenging with time and family. You have a child that's in college, who's about to go to college. You will leave your family for months to do this for your country. I can just imagine what you're going through and what you have to give away, to do all that. For that, I want to say thank you. You have challenged me to the core. Maybe I will not be thinking about that little land and do something bigger. Thank you. Let's get your closing, please.
Thank you, my brother. It has been such a blessing to be on the show today. I can't thank you enough. And thank your viewers for taking the time to tune in. This is not about me. It's not about my family. It's about what is possible for God to do through us when we give ourselves up for Him to use us. And if we have nothing else to give, let us give love. Let us give ourselves up and watch what God is going to do with us. The more we hold back from this concept of making ourselves available, the more we hold back from a concept of rebuilding our nation. I strongly believe that in 10 years' time, Liberia, if we wanted to, we can build a rocket to go to the moon. That sounds crazy. But if we're not crazy enough to overcome our crisis, then we would die in it. We don't have to die in our crisis. We're able to overcome. Let us reimagine the concept of what a Liberia could become. Let us give our people a reference point that they've never had before. We've traveled, we've seen what it means to build society overseas. Let us imagine the possibilities of what it takes to build society locally so that when you and me are dead and gone, the beauty of that society will live on for hundreds of years after our life. Why can't we emulate to that possibility? So I'm just inviting you all to believe a little bit more in yourself and the potential that you have should not be darkened by the politic of the day, but it shouldn't be darkened by the crisis that you're facing. But there is something within you that is greater than yourself. That if you play to that notion of greatness, that you can do anything that God has put in your mind, that you join together with your brother and sister and let's build Liberia together. Join us in January. Go to the website, wherever you are, contribute. The money does not go in my pocket. And I'll tell you this, you will not believe it, but God has taken care of my family and I for the better part of 15 years. I have not had to bring one paycheck with the degree that I have to my family. Every single money that comes in goes directly to the project. That's why it's successful, because we are not paying ourselves to do it. We're taking care of people, and God is taking care of us. And that's more important than anything I can tell you. Thank you for your support.
And so, folks, that we're doing, and as always, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." And that song, "We are all Liberians," is taking us home. Thank you for watching, and those who will watch later. And don't hesitate to share this video with somebody you believe can contribute to this project. Enjoy the sun. We are all Liberians, and indeed we are, and let us build Liberia. Bye-bye.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home.